Hey there, Jamie Lancaster here. I teach business analytics classes at beautiful Cal Poly Humboldt in Northern California. In today's video, we're going to scrape data on men's road running shoes from Zappos.com. And to do this, we're going to be using Google Chrome's free web scraper. I'm going to assume that you have the tool. If not, pause this video, do a search for Google Chrome free web scraper, get it on your computer, and come right back. So we're on the homepage of Zappos.com, and like I said, we're going to do men's road running shoes. It's a pretty narrow category and maybe a little restrictive or boring given what you could scrape on this web page, but I encourage you to start small with me and then take a look at other shoes or other types of clothes or other things that might interest you. To open the web scraper, we go to these three dots. A single click will reveal this pop-up menu, and we want more tools down at the bottom or toward the bottom. And from more tools, we want developer tools, which are also, again, on the bottom. And then when we open developer tools, my box shows up on the bottom, but if yours shows up on the side, you can come down here and move your dock to the bottom if you want, or leave it on your side. I like to have it on the bottom, so that's where I'm going to leave it. And then I'm going to click on Web Scraper. Okay, so now we've got the Web Scraper open and the main Zappos web page in the background. The first thing we have to do is navigate to the exact URL that we want to scrape. So in this case, the exact URL that we want to scrape is going to be the one that takes us to the web page for men's road running shoes. And I'm actually going to be even a little bit more particular than that, just to try to keep our first data set at a manageable size. So we'll go men running shoes. And then when this pops up, I'll get this scraper a little bit out of the way. We can see for men's running shoes, there's 494 items. I'd like to restrict that a little bit more, and I'm going to restrict that first by looking only at road running shoes. Now I'm down to 318 items. And then I want to come down to the brands, and I'm going to take all the brands that have 35 or more models of shoes. So Adidas Running has 172 models. Ultra has 39 models. Asics has 103. We've got Brooks, looking for 35 or more. Hoka, Mizuno, New Balance, On, Saucony, Skechers, Under Armour. Are there any others that I missed? I don't think so. I'm going to come back up to the top. 248 items found. So if you do this on a different day, you might have a different number of shoes, but this is how many are on the Zappos website today. You know what today? What is today? Today is September 7th, 2022. It's in the morning. There are 248 men's road running shoes from this select handful of brands. So we're getting close. With every change we make, it changes this URL. And I want to make one more change, and I want to sort by popularity. I want to sort by best-selling shoes. So when I've sorted by best sellers, what I'm getting is actually two things. The first is that, this Hoka Bondi 7, Zappos is saying is their best-selling men's road running shoe. By having them sorted in order of best to worst selling, I can then sort the data on the scrape order later to figure out how well shoes sell. But also, I can be guaranteed more or less that there are enough reviews on this first shoe to walk the scraper through the process of collecting reviews on the first basic 2 pages. So here we go. This is our final search order, or our final URL. And now we just need to tell the scraper that this is where it wants to start. So I'm scrolling to the bottom, and that is because usually when you have a lot of reviews, they don't all, or a lot of products, they don't all show up on the first page, right? They're paginated. And at the bottom, I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3 pages of results. I can choose the page I want to look at by clicking on the number or going to the next page. When I want the scraper to get data on all of these shoes, 248 or whatever there are of them, it's going to need to go to all these 3 pages, 1, 2, and 3. And different websites paginate differently. Like some might actually be paginated as 1, 2, 3, but some different websites will call that first page 0. So we need to figure out how the URL on Zappos is recording pagination, and I need to adjust accordingly. So I'm going to go to this third page, our least popular shoes, and that's where I'm going to start. So let's start. In the scraper, we're mostly going to be working within these 3 menus: sitemap with a drop-down menu, and then create new sitemap. And so we're going to start, obviously, by creating a new sitemap. I'm going to click on new sitemap and then create. And so your sitemap name, you can name it whatever you want. You can't have spaces, you can't have uppercase letters. So I'm going to call this Zappos Men's Road Running, and then F22 for fall 2022. That's the semester I'm in now. And now here's the space for that start URL. So recall we're on the 3rd page. I'm going to grab the URL, copy and paste it into the start URL box. And we can see Zappos.com, men road running shoes, a bunch of gobbledygook, but at the very end, we get and page equals 2. So this, remember, was our 3rd page. I had pages 1, 2, and 3. And so what that tells us is that these pages are numbered 0 to 2 to indicate all 3 pages. We have to change that pagination so that Zappos will run through, scrape the first page, move to the second page, scrape the second page, move to the third page, scrape the third page. To do that, and you probably have to zoom in to see this, I use a hard bracket. It's kind of right above the quotation mark key on my computer, but I do hard bracket, and then in there I type 0 to 2. Page 0, page 1, and page 2, otherwise known as page 1, page 2, and page 3, but this is the language it speaks, and so that's the language I'm using. And once I have that in, I've really created or done my first step, which is creating the new sitemap. I click create. And now when the scraper is going to run, it starts here, it goes to this URL, and it knows it's going to need to get information from all 3 pages. If there's a problem on your start URL, you have to start over. I'll click create sitemap. And now you can see that the sitemap drop-down menu is now saying we're dealing with this particular Zappos Men's Road Running Fall 22 scraper or sitemap. And in that drop-down menu, I can see my selectors. Selector is basically, it's like a variable, but it's some feature of a web page on which the scraper is going to navigate or collect data. We can look at the selector graph. We'll also work with scraping, browsing, and exporting our data later. So we'll get to all those things. So root refers to our start URL. So the scraper is going to start at the root at that start URL, navigating through those 3 pages. That's not quite enough. It needs to know what information to collect. It needs to know both how to navigate the web page and what information to retrieve for us. So we have to first tell it, well, we'll start here. Add a new selector. We have some choices. Well, we've got to name it, we've got type, We've got selector, this is where we do the selecting. If we want to see on the web page what we selected, that's element preview. And if we want to know what data it's retrieving, we choose data preview. Some selectors are single, like each shoe has only one title, but some are multiple, like on this web page, there are many pairs of shoes that we need data on, or a given shoe may have many reviews. If the item or the selector you're interested in has multiple reviews or shoes for a given level of observation, you choose multiple. That'll become clearer in a second. So to start, I actually want to go back to my very first shoe, my very first page. Why? Because then my selector order will come back in the order of best selling. If we don't do that, they won't come back. When you sort them, they won't be in the right order. So we want that Hoka Bondi 7, Zappos' best-selling men's running shoe, to be up at the top. And so we have to start by telling Zappos, or telling the scraper, that we want to collect data on every shoe. That's our first step. So the selector ID is shoe. The shoe is basically our level of observation, and in the scraper, the code for that, or the word for that, is element. The element is the thing you're collecting data on. So shoes are our element. So we need to tell Zappos what we mean by the element of shoe. And when I click select, because it's an element, it automatically chooses multiple, which is good. And I'm going to come up and click on the box of the first shoe and the second shoe. And when I click on the second shoe, every other shoe, not sponsored results, but every other just real shoe, will highlight in pink. And now we can say, oh yeah, now the scraper knows that we need to move through. We're going to start and we want data on every single shoe on the URL that we directed it to. Then we click Done Selecting, and then we click Save Selector. Now we've got our ID as shoe. This is the code for the selector. You never want to alter that. The type is selector element. Is there multiple? Yes. And then the parent selector is root. And that's true. The root is where it starts on that main URL. And then from that, it's the parent of shoe, because we retrieve data on the individual shoes from the parent page, which in this case is that start URL. So the parent selector should be root. So before we move on, we have to kind of think about how this page is navigated. There is a lot of information here, but it's not the main product page. We need to get a link to the main product page, because we're going to actually collect all our data on this main product page. So from our start URL, we're going to add a new selector. And we want the parent of that selector not to be the main URL, but we want it to be the shoe. So for each of our shoes, we want it to follow a link. Each shoe is going to have one link. So I'm going to click on shoe here, and now you can see from the start page will take us to the shoe, and then on each shoe, now shoe is going to become a parent for this next indicator, or this next selector, that's going to be called link. So I'm going to call this link. You can call it link to product page, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's call it link to product, because we're going to do another link a little bit down the line. It's not text, it's actually a link. And then we're going to click select, and the link is anywhere on that, in that pink rectangle. You can click anywhere on there and it'll take you to the next page. So all we have to do is click it, done selecting, save selector. Now root, shoe, and our next ID is link to product. The selector is called parent. The type is a selector link. It's not multiple. Each shoe has only one, and the parent selector is shoe. That's fantastic. So to move forward, we've got to now navigate to the link. To do that, you click anywhere in that Hoka Bondi 7. Here's the main product page. And now from this link, I want to get the name of the shoe, the model of the shoe, the selling price, the MSRP if they're different. I'd like to know how many total reviews they have. Then we're going to scroll down here, and we're going to collect the percentage of respondents that say the shoe's true to size, the percent that say the shoe's true to width, the percent that say there's moderate arch support. And then we're going to collect comfort and style ratings wherever possible. So you'll see that if a shoe is reviewed at Hoka 1.1, we get only an overall rating. But these that say verified purchase were reviewed on Zappos, and they have a comfort and style rating. We'll then navigate to the additional customer reviews and grab the additional comfort and style ratings on the first page. We won't paginate through all 6,000 customer reviews. We'll just sort of leave it there. So, how do we walk through this? Not by updating my computer. So, we want that link to product to become the parent. URL. Shoes are what we're looking at. We're going to link for each shoe to their product page. Once we're on that product page, we're going to grab a whole slew of selectors. So we're going to start with brand, type as text, click select, hover over the brand. When it's only the brand that's highlighted in yellow, you click it, you say done selecting, and then save selector. Great, we got the brand. Now let's do the model. Add selector, model, type as text. We're going to select Bondi 7. We're going to say done selecting. We're going to say save. Now we're going to do the sale price, or the current price that you would pay for the shoe. I'm going to call that price, and I'm going to differentiate that from the MSRP. So we're going to do price, text, done selecting, and save. Going to add a new selector. We're going to do MSRP. Why get both? Because if a shoe has two prices, it'll help us indicate whether or not that shoe is on sale. Type as text. Selector is 160. It looks like it's got a line through it. That doesn't really matter. Done. Save selector. And then let's get number of reviews. We'll get that information actually in another place, but it's easier if we can ask the scraper to extract it separately. We don't have to pull it out of a series of text. That'll make sense later. Done selecting and save. All right, what else do we need? We need that true to size, true to width, and moderate arch support. There it is. Add new selector, true to size, add new selector, true to width, new selector, moderate arch support, and now we're going to get to the tricky part. I want to get all the comfort and style ratings. We're not going to have them on every single shoe or in every single rating because of where the rating originated, but I'm going to get comfort and style. I'm going to get it in 2 steps. So each shoe can have multiple comfort and style ratings. So I'll add a new selector, and I'm going to call this comfort. It's still text, but there's going to be multiple, and I'm going to click select. So on this Bondi 7, most don't have comfort and style ratings. So I'm going to try to grab comfort, and then I need to just scroll up and down to make sure that if there were more than one comfort, at least many of them were highlighted. And in this case, I'm only going to be able to pull comfort stars for one rating from this original page. Save selector. Oops, sorry, done selecting. Save selector. And then we'll do another selector, and this one's going to be style. So what we're telling the scraper to do, it's going to be multiple, is we're going to tell it to collect the comfort and style ratings from this main product page if there are any. And if there are, it should grab all of them. However, we're also going to then link to the additional reviews. So let's set up that link, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab the additional comfort and additional style ratings from the next page of additional reviews. We're not going to go through every single page, but we're going to do this as a new link selector. So add a selector, link to additional reviews. It's a link. I'm going to select that link there, say done selecting, save selector. There we go, link to additional reviews. Now that I've set up the link, I need to click on it so that it's established as the parent in the scraper, and then I need to follow the link on the website at the same time. And now I want to capture what I'm going to call more comfort and more style ratings. So with this case, it's a bit of a bummer because most of these ratings come from Hoka as opposed to coming from Zappos. So if the shoe that is being, when the scraper goes through a shoe that has more verified purchases, will have more comfort and style ratings. I hope this doesn't affect our analysis too much. So we're going to add a new selector, and I'm going to call this more comfort. Again, there's multiple. So there's a handful on this page, not a ton. It may highlight every single one with comfort, but it may not. Done selecting, save, add new selector, and then we're going to do more style the same way. And it's not clicking and highlighting every single one, but don't let that discourage you. It's okay. Done selecting and then save. If we wanted, like for instance, if we get through these and find that there are so few that have enough comfort and style ratings, you could link to a next page and at least get one more page, but I'm not going to do it. All right, so that is actually our entire sitemap created. We started with the start URL, then we identified the unit of observation. We went to its main product page where we collected a whole bunch of information on the brand, this, all that stuff, you were there, and then linked to additional reviews. I like to make sure that I did it correctly before I scrape the data. And the easiest way to at least confirm, it's not 100%, but the selector graph. If the selector graph is wrong, it's wrong. If the selector graph is right, it's less likely to be wrong. So we'll start with root and click on the blue box because the root is a parent. So anything that's blue is a parent of something else. So the start URL is the parent of our shoe. The shoe is the parent of a link to product. Each shoe has only one link. And then link to product is a parent where we're going to collect all this data. And then we're going to link to additional reviews, and we're going to grab the extra comfort and extra style ratings. If the sitemap doesn't look like that, this is your first go through, I would delete your sitemap and start over. It is often easier than fixing, and once you get the rhythm of it, it's not that hard. I've actually created this sitemap a number of times for this product before recording this video, and it's just sort of how it is. And on that comforting note, let's scrape the web page. So I'm going to click on the sitemap for Zappos running shoe, the drop-down menu, and I'm going to cruise down and I'm going to say scrape. This is going to launch the scraper. It's going to take over my computer screen. Oops, I also have to click start scraping. And there it goes. I'm going to hide it and go back to my web page. Actually, for a second, I'm just going to watch it. You can see how it's going to each product page and then to the additional reviews page. So that's a good sign. And then it says no data scraped yet, and you're going to panic, but you shouldn't. You just click refresh. And this is when you can check to make sure that the scraping is working. So we've got data, our first row here, in no apparent order to the web page that we were scraping, but that's okay at this point. But first we've got the Mizuno Wave Creation C1 knit. We've got its price, we've got its MSRP. See, those two numbers aren't the same, so that shoe's on sale. It has 35 reviews. It's got an 89% true to size, 71% true to width, 71% moderate arch support. And then it didn't have any comfort or, well, in that first observation, there's no comfort or style. That's okay. And there's no additional reviews, at least that I can see. So that's fine. Where you'd want to be concerned is if you saw lots of results that say null. If it says null, that either means one, there's no, that data or that variable isn't available for that shoe, which is okay. Like if I scroll down a little bit, here down at the Mizuno Wave Neo Ultra, there are a lot of nulls here, but that's just because null meaning the price and the MSRP are the same, so this shoe's not on sale. I don't have to worry about that. But here with the true to size and true to width and number of reviews, the shoe just hasn't been rated yet, so it's not a big deal that it's missing. This to me looks like a pretty successful scrape. And now I just need to wait for it to finish. I'm going to pause this recording, and when it's done scraping, well, I'm going to stop this recording, and when it's done scraping, I'll start the next one on what to do next. All right, good luck, happy scraping. Put any questions in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you, or if you're in my class, email or text, contacting me via Canvas is, of course, the slowest. Okay, talk to you soon.